Okay, so this is just an addition to a video that I did where I was talking to Dr Banda, and it was about our women and the different kinds of hair that they put on their head. And of course, in that video, the images I had on there was just of wigs. But the reality of the situation is that there are lots of different ways in which they can, their hair can be, added to for unnecessarily. And this image essentially gives you the different ways. And what you have to understand about these, see, it gives you the times. And it says that, see, this one's like an hour, or this one's 10 minutes. Yeah. And so sewing 3 to 4 hours, so gluing 1 to 2 hours. And this one's 30 minutes. But you see, what the problem is that, you see, for European and Asian and essentially every other woman on the planet, except for our women, who originate from the African continent, they can have any of these ones and it doesn't make much of a difference. And the essential reason why is because they already have hair which is long, which has a part in it. And what you need to understand is that the parting in the hair is the most important part of why these crazy women have to spend so much money. Because these ones which are short, like 30 minutes, hour, this is when your hair already has a part. So that means your hair is straight. So these ones you can put on and then you can have your hair longer and everything's fine. Problem is, if our women put these short ones on, then you can see the part isn't there. So you know that it's a wig. And that's what they used to do at first. Because of the speed and the cheapness. But of course, when you see them wearing the wig, there's no part, so you know it's a wig, 100%. But what you probably notice is that in years, I don't know, maybe last 5 years or 4 years, what's happened is that now they have ones where they attach the hair individually to each strand or a few strands. And the reason why they have to do it that way is that now the hair looks more natural because you have the part in the middle and you can actually style it to a degree like a European woman's hair or every other nation's hair. And the problem with those ways is that these more advanced ones, and notice the time, it takes 4 to 6 hours. And then this is the ultimate one here, which is a hot fusion or keratin bond. This actually fuses the hair to the actual hair that's on their head. So the strands actually get attached almost individually, or I think it is individual. I can't remember. I don't know. But that's the reason why it takes 6 to 8 hours. Because you can imagine you've got to sit in the hairdressers for 6 or 8 hours while they attach these long strands of hair to your individual hairs. And you might be wondering that, or you might be thinking, well, yeah, if they do that, they can end up, looking like a European or an Asian or what every other woman in the world, essentially. And then they can feel happy. But there is a problem though, and that is that if we go to this next one, this actually gives you the information about how long those extensions can go in. Because obviously, see, it says a halo extensions. So if you go back to this picture, halo, yeah, see the names that switch around. But essentially, if you're wearing a wig, you can put it on, take it off. It doesn't matter. You take it off, wash your hair. I presume you can even wash the wig, and then you put it back on your head, and everything's fine. So you don't have to worry about sitting in the hairdresser for 6 hours minimum. And but the problem is that everyone knows it's a wig, and of course our women are not happy when they spend they spend the money on the wig, but it's a wig because there's no part. Yeah, so what the problem is that, see, they got these halo extensions, but these are just ones for if your hair is long. But because our women need the last two ones, not even this one, a small bead and clamp shut. You see this? Yeah, this one's see, this is a real one our women have to go for, this one. Because you see, the bond is attached to the hair using heated element. This is the one they'd have to go for. And that's 6 to 8 hours, and it's the most expensive one. And this is where you guaranteed will have the parts in the middle of your hair, so it looks natural. So the problem is that if we go here, see, it says, see, other types of hair extensions have an earlier expiration date. So clip-ins, sew-ins, glue-ins, and tape-ins last for about 2 months, according to Val's. If you go longer, then that's when you start to see some possible damage. And you see, this is the thing you have to be careful of, because if you mess up the hair follicles, they don't, if you mess your hair follicles up too much, they don't recover. And so that means you just end up bald, essentially. Well, you end up with patches of hair and there's no going back. And see, here's the thing. See, do extensions damage your real hair? And it says, if you maintain them correctly, and notice it says, I've had clients who have had extensions for 15 years, and that sounds good. But it says every 6 weeks we remove them and put them back in. See, 6 weeks. Now, you might think 6 weeks, well, that's a reasonable amount of time. But here's the huge problem. Your 6 weeks have gone by. Your hairdressers are telling you that, okay, it's time for you to take those expensive strands out so we can redo them. But remember, every 6 weeks, our women have to get this one, the end one, for 6 to 8 hours. They have to sit in the hairdresser, and this is every 6 weeks. So, for some reason, they've decided, and I suppose this is why the Hebrew Israelites say that they're crazy, they hate their hair and they go crazy and whatever. Because if you're gonna be willing to spend 6 to 8 hours in a hairdresser, then you must be a bit crazy. And one of the things I want to clear up on this video is that when I was speaking to Dr. Banda, I said about baldness, and I made the mistake of thinking that they shaved off the hair and then glued the hair to the scalp. But now I've been actually looking into it, I realized that was actually a mistake. And what they do is they need to have some of your hair left in order to attach the hair to. So here's the interesting thing, is the baldness is not caused by them having to shave the hair off. No, what the baldness comes in is when they try to be cheap and then their hair gets damaged, and yes, you will end up with patches of bald. And this one explains it very well. It says we shed up to 100 hairs per day. So the amount of hair inside an individual extension naturally thins over time. And so if the natural hair becomes too thin, the bond becomes heavy and it can easily be plucked out, which is how women end up having bald spots. So there you go. So God was right. And in Isaiah 3:12, when it says baldness, there's your baldness. But it's not how I said it. That's the thing. It's not them shaving the head. The baldness comes from when you're trying to be too cheap and to not have to spend the money every 6 weeks. That's where the baldness comes in. So that's where I was wrong. And so I just wanted to clear that up. And it says here, maintain extensions at home. Wash gently, avoid tugging when the extensions are attached to the head. So it just gives you some instructions here. But now, this is the thing. So remember this. Keep in mind, 6 weeks is how much you should do it. How regularly you should have the hair changed due to the amount of hairs that shed. Now, here's the interesting part. It says we shed up to 100 hairs per day. But remember, this is for a woman who's got reasonably long hair. If a woman has short hair, then she's going to shed more than 100. Because that's the reason why the hair is short. Because if you look at it, thinking about it logically, the hair must grow at the same rate for everyone. Because hair follicles, you have the same design and we eat roughly the same amount of food. But if our people's hair is shorter, that means we shed more hairs per day than the other nations, and that's the reason why our hair is short. And this is where the horrible bit comes in, because of course our women, if they get this last one, 6 to 8 hours, because this is attached directly to the hair, that means the fact that their hair drops out at a higher rate means that they have to do this 6 to 8 hours more regularly. So they're actually having to spend, they're having to spend more money than the women of the other nations when they get their hair extended, because their hair drops out quicker. And this might be part of the reason why they seem to be so depressed as well, because the depression part of what I'm saying is that what happened is, there's one time I went into Argos and I noticed that the people who were serving, one of them was like a young woman, and I could see that she had like the long hair on. And thing about it is, I was in there and there's not one single time I saw her smile. Now I'm thinking, if she's been into the hairdresser, sat there for 6 hours, and then spent the good money, because here's the scary stuff. So after she spent all that money, shouldn't she just be happy, saying, look, I've got long hair? But no, for some reason, the women, they spend this ridiculous money and they then are depressed after spending the money. And so you think, why didn't they just not spend it and be depressed and then save the cash? But for some reason, our women are too desperate to spend that money and then be depressed. And here's the problem. See, this is the weights for, this is the prices. And you notice here it says half a head of hair. Now, if you're a woman who's not from the African region and your hair is longish, you're not gonna want to have the hair attached to all of your hair, because some of it's already long. So you'll go for like a half head, 50 grams. So that's like a few strands hanging down. Problem is, our women have got short curly hair. So they need to have all of it covered in order for it to look proper, which means they have to go for the more expensive one. They need at least a full head for it to look sensible. So they have to spend the big money. And remember, look, this is 16 inches, which isn't that long. And the thing is, this woman who was in Argos, she had the really long one. I'm sure it was 12. Yeah, it looks like it's 24 inches. So she was willing, and it was a full head, so she was willing to spend £590. It wasn't extra thick. No, it was a full head though, I could see. So she potentially spent £590, and if she doesn't want to end up bald while she's young, then she's going to have to go back in every 6 weeks and spend that £590. And she works at Argos. So literally, it's like she'd have to, I don't know, must have to starve herself just so she could have that long hair on her head, or long fake hair, I should say, on her head. And this is one way, you have to agree with the Hebrew Israelites when they say about our women being crazy. Now, this price is $590 full head of hair. And yeah, see, this is keratin bonded. So this is the 6 hours one. This is, so you sit in there for 6 hours, get your full head, which our women need. Some of them go for the shorter one, which I've seen, 16 inches. Yeah, usually they go for the long one. So shorter one, most of them I've noticed, they don't go for the long one because that's more expensive. But still, they have to pay £470 every 6 weeks, and their hair falls out quicker than the other women of the world. So even though it says 6 weeks, they might even have to, if they don't want the bald patches, they might even have to go in shorter than 6 weeks to get it like topped up, even though you don't pay the full price. Because, so you've got this, these small ones, they're no good for our women. Gold double weft, very human hair. Yeah, see, that's hair only, so that's not processing. Now, 48 grams, that's too small. So weave, yeah, you can have a weave, but the problem is weaves can't be styled. They're static, so your hair just stays the same. See, there's the nano rings one. This is the other version, and you notice the price is similar. So, and yeah, you got the tape one, but the problem is tape, as far as I know, you don't get the part. So our women wouldn't really want to go for this one because they need to have that part in the middle of the hair. And so, yeah, so now these guys, alright, see, you got micro wings, nano rings, well, tape, no, it's too cheap. So this is the way that these companies get their recurring money. So this is why it's called hair loss integration system, is because they know that if you leave it on too long, it can damage your hair. So what you have to do is you have to come in regularly, well, at a regular amount of time. And so, see the micro wings here. See, it's 10 to 12 weeks. So these prices have to be paid, like, as long as you want to have the hair. You have to pay this every period of time. So obviously it's not the whole thing, because they're not starting from scratch. Because essentially what they're doing 6 to 8 weeks is just like it's like a service, isn't it? You're not buying the car new. It's like a service. So this one is, funny enough, these prices are actually cheapest, because I looked on this other one, and this is all right. Now this is the thing. So you got European hair, but for some reason Slavic virgin hair, I presume it's because it's more yellow. The yellow is different, so that's why they like that. But problem is our women have got black hair, so if they want to match the black, they have to go for Brazilian. Now, don't you find it weird that the Brazilian hair is more expensive? Yeah, it's black, so it's almost like they know that there are some women out there who need the darker hair. So what do? They rob them by charging them more money. And I suppose that's the reason why some of our women are desperate and go for the sort of the yellowy hair or the brown hair. But as you can see, the length makes a difference. So 14 inches, I've noticed, a lot of them do go for the shorter one. But this Argos, well, she did go, the one in Argos, she went for the yellow. So she looks like she went for European, but she looks like it's 24 inches is expensive, man. So whatever she went for it's going to cost her. But the fact that the Brazilian is more expensive, and what's so special about a Brazilian woman over the European, and it's that their hair is black. And so now, see, this is 3/4 of a head. What's that? Yes, this is full head, which is what our women would need for it to look proper. You can do 3/4 of a head, but it looks, you've seen some of our women when they do this, and you can see it doesn't look quite right, because you get certain parts, and then the hair needs to be longer anyway, so they need to go for a longer one, so you don't see it looking inconsistent. But what I'm trying to find, boost, and that's no good for our women. So, where is it? Yeah, maintenance, here we go. So this is the important bit. So when you get that full head of hair, you have to maintain it. And no, look what it says here. It's in small text, so let's boost it up, since they want to try and hide it. Let's see. Right, maintenance, very important. So the full head hair extensions is from $220 to $330, depending on the amount of hair. So our women would have to pay the $330, because their hair is they have to have all of it done, or the curly parts are still left behind. And so please note that if hair extensions have been left in longer than the recommended 3 months, or if hair has not been cared for properly and have caused extreme matting, a £50 plus charge will be added. So this is for the stingy ones who don't want to pay their chunk of money like continually. Remember, as long as you have that hair in, you have to pay this amount. And it says here 3 months, but this is for if you're European and your hair doesn't drop out that quickly. But remember, our women, their hair's shorter, so it drops out quicker. So it's not going to be 3 months. It's going to be less than 3 months, and it's going to get all patchy. And when it gets patchy, you see where the curl starts to come through. So basically, if our women who have to get the full head of hair, they have to come back in less than 3 months and drop that $330, because it's the full whack that they have to pay, due to the fact that their normal hair is not like the extension. So they have to have it all redone. It has to be fully maintained. So it's not going to be the cheap one. And so when you realize that they go to all that trouble to have this straight hair, and they're then having to pay all this money and have to do it regularly as well to make sure it looks normal, because if they don't, the curly hair comes through and mashes it up. And, I could see why they're depressed. So there was another woman where I went into Tesco's, a similar thing. She was a little bit older, and she actually had the short one. So she went for the cheapest one, which was a 14 inches. She definitely had the 14 inches one, and it was black. So she had the Brazilian. So, that's half head. Sorry, she had a full head because there was no curls whatsoever. So, yeah, she had full head. She had the shortest one, Brazilian, because it was all black. So she dropped her 630 to get it done. And then every, 2 months maybe, she's got to drop that 330 in order for them to redo it so that the curls, her normal natural curls don't come through. And I've noticed that whenever I see a woman walking having this fake head, this fake process done to their hair, pretty much all of them are depressed when I see them. I just don't see them smiling. So I just don't understand, why is it that they spend all this money and put all this to have all this fake process done. Yeah, it's not fake hair, it's real hair, but the process is fake. And then after spending all that money, they're depressed. And it looks as if this one filtered full hair application, 3 after came into the 60 minutes, choose from 11 times. Permanent hair extensions. Yeah, you see, this is the reason why. No, this is Russian. Now they need Brazilian. £1,900 complete hair extension service for a year, all inclusive. Wow. See, so what they're saying is that they're giving you a better deal than the other ones. So yeah, 1,500 is nice. 4 fitted full head. Now you see, 4, our women would have to pay more than this because their hair is shorter and it will drop out quicker. So they would need, in order to have the hair look normal all the time, they would need more than this. So they're saying that you got to drop you 1,900 a year, but I'm afraid that's for a woman who doesn't originate from the African continent. So anyone who is from there, no, they're going to have to pay more than this per year. And this is more than road tax. This is more than what I pay for when I buy my bus pass and go to work. I pay a lot. This is way more than what I pay for bus fare, for anything. And this is what I pay for, even computer parts. I don't pay this much. Maybe it'll add up to this after I bought a few parts, but this is for a computer, which I'm using to actually work on. I can get a laptop for cheaper than this as well. But yeah, our women are willing to pay this or more just to have some fake hair on their head. And I think that is just crazy, man. But in a way, it's the men's fault for not looking after the women properly. But if they want to stop these women from wasting all this money, then we're going to have to get together and try and do something about it, whatever can be done.